Have you ever felt trapped? Maybe stuck in a long line, or caught in a traffic jam that seems to last forever? Now, imagine being trapped deep inside a mountain, in a pitch-black, flooded cave, with no way out. This isn't a scene from a movie. It was the terrifying reality for 12 young boys and their coach in the summer of 2018. On June 23, 2018, 12 members of a junior football team called the Wild Boars, along with their 25-year-old assistant coach, Ekhan Chanthong, decided to go for an afternoon adventure. After football practice, they cycled to the Tham Luang Nang Non cave system in northern Thailand. It was a familiar spot, a place they'd explored before. They parked their bikes, left their backpacks at the entrance, and ventured inside, planning to be out in just an hour. But as they explored deeper, the weather outside took a dramatic turn. The monsoon season arrived early and with a vengeance. Heavy rains began to pour, and the cave system, a winding labyrinth of narrow passages, started to flood. The single path back to the entrance was quickly submerged, cutting them off from the outside world. The one-hour adventure turned into a desperate fight for survival. As evening fell and the boys didn't return home, their parents grew frantic. They found the team's bicycles and belongings abandoned at the cave entrance. The alarm was raised, and a local search effort began. But as the water levels inside the cave continued to rise, it became chillingly clear. This was no ordinary missing persons case. This was a race against time, against the rising waters, and against the immense, unforgiving power of nature. The initial search was led by the Thai Navy SEALs. These elite divers were highly skilled, but Tham Luang was a different kind of beast. The water wasn't clear ocean. It was thick, brown mud, reducing visibility to zero. The currents were strong and unpredictable, and the passages were so narrow in places that divers had to remove their oxygen tanks to squeeze through. It was like trying to navigate a maze, blindfolded, with the current pushing against you. Days turned into a week. Hope began to dwindle. The world watched, holding its breath. The question on everyone's mind was grim. Could anyone possibly survive in those conditions for so long? The situation seemed desperate. That's when the call went out for international help. Cave diving isn't just a hobby. It's a highly specialized, incredibly dangerous skill. Soon, experts from around the world, UK, Australia, the US, China, and many other nations started arriving in Thailand. Among them were two British divers, Rick Stanton and John Volanthen, considered among the best cave divers on the planet. They brought with them decades of experience navigating the world's most treacherous underwater caves. The rescue hub at the cave entrance transformed into a massive, bustling village. Hundreds of volunteers worked round the clock, cooking food, washing clothes, and managing the logistics. Engineers and soldiers worked on a monumental task, pumping millions of gallons of water out of the cave. They even tried drilling into the mountainside, hoping to find an alternative way in. It was a testament to human solidarity, with everyone, from farmers to engineers, doing whatever they could to help. Inside the cave, the team was fighting their own battle. Led by their coach, Ekhan, a former monk, they found a small, muddy ledge about 4 kilometers from the entrance, just above the water line. In the total darkness, he taught them meditation techniques to keep calm and conserve their energy. They let the condensation dripping down the cave walls to stay hydrated. They had no food, no light, and no idea if anyone was even looking for them. They were simply trying to survive, 1 minute at a time. Then, on July 2nd, 10 days after they went missing, a miracle happened. Rick Stanton and John Vollanthen were laying a guideline through a newly submerged chamber when they surfaced in a small, unexplored cavern. And there they were, 12 boys and their coach, huddled on a muddy slope. The moment of discovery, captured on a GoPro camera, is unforgettable. "How many of you?" Vollanthen asks. 13, our boy replies. 13. Brilliant. The boys, thin and weak but alive, were found. The relief was immense, but the celebration was short-lived. An even more daunting challenge emerged. How do you get the teen non-swimmers, some as young as 11, out of a treacherous, flooded cave system? The journey that took expert divers hours was impossible for untrained children. Several options were considered. Could they wait out the monsoon season? That could take months, and oxygen levels in the chamber were dangerously low. Could they be taught to dive? The risk of panic and drowning was incredibly high. As they debated the options, the mission faced a heartbreaking tragedy. Simon Cunin, a former Thai Navy SEAL who had volunteered for the rescue, died while placing oxygen tanks along the escape route. He ran out of air on his way back. His death was a devastating blow, a stark reminder of the extreme danger everyone was facing. It underscored the urgency. They had to get the boys out, and they had to do it now. The window of opportunity was closing. More rain was forecast, which would flood the cave completely. A daring, high-risk plan was formulated by an international team of divers, including an Australian doctor and anesthetist, Richard Harris. The plan was audacious. The boys would be sedated. They would be given a cocktail of drugs to make them unconscious, preventing them from panicking during the dive. Each boy would be fitted with a full face mask, strapped to a flexible stretcher, and then guided out by a diver. This had never been done before. The risks were astronomical. What if the sedative wore off mid-dive? What if their masks flooded? What if they got stuck in a narrow passage? There were 1,000 things that could go wrong, any one of which would be fatal. Harris himself acknowledged that the chance of success was slim, but it was the only chance they had. On July 8th, the final rescue mission began. It was codenamed D-Day. The world watched, fixated. The first day, 4 boys were brought out. The divers worked in a relay system, passing the sedated boys from one to another through the dark, flooded passages. Each extraction was a grueling, hours-long ordeal. The next day, July 9th, 4 more boys were rescued. Each successful rescue brought a wave of relief, but the tension remained high. There were still 5 people trapped inside, including the coach. The final day, July 10th, was the most critical. They had to bring out the remaining 4 boys and their coach. By this point, the divers were exhausted, and the oxygen levels in the cave were dangerously low. The pumps holding back the water were on the verge of failing. It was a final, desperate push. Finally, the coach was brought out. And then, the last 4 rescuers, who had stayed with the boys for days, made their own perilous journey out. Just as the last rescuer emerged from the cave, the main water pump failed. The water levels began to rise rapidly, flooding the area where the command center had been just hours before. They had made it out just in time. All the team members of the wild boars were safe. The news sent a wave of jubilation across Thailand and around the world. It was a story of hope, resilience, and incredible courage. The rescue of the wild boars football team was more than just a dramatic news event. It involved over 10,000 people, from local villages to international experts, all united by a single purpose. It's a story that reminds us that even in the darkest of places, there is always hope, and that the human spirit, when faced with an impossible challenge, can achieve the extraordinary. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.